Well, hello there, everyone. I am Anne LaFollette, and welcome to this week's broadcast. I am going to jump right in. This week is all about how to survive a 100-day project. And I wrote about it on my blog, but I wanted to pop onto YouTube to tell you a little bit more about it. And for those of you who don't know what the 100-day project is, it is an incredible sort of art or creative exercise that was founded almost 20 years ago now by Michael Beirut, who was and may still be a professor at the Yale School of Arts. And he came up with this concept where he asked his students to pick a design project and pick something that they could do every single day in one form or another for 100 days in a row. Hence, it's called the 100-day project. And if you go onto my blog, I'll put a link below. There is a link inside the blog to an interview that he did with El Luna that is absolutely fantastic about sort of how he came up with the concept, what he was trying to get his students to learn from the concept. And essentially, the biggest takeaway was his interest and fascination with how artists sort of balance their creative side with being super disciplined and having certain disciplines in place, because it's easy to be creative when you're working on an exciting project and you've got that focus, but then how do you create when you don't have that? So in any event, that's a little bit of the history behind the 100-day project, and now I want to share with you my top 5 tips for how to survive them and enjoy the journey while you're participating in one. I am leading one right now. It's actually in a private Facebook group called Anne's 100-Day Challenge, and I'll put a link below that too in case you want to join. We are on day 37 today, which means we're about 1/3 of the way through, but you are more than welcome to join for the experience if you've never done one before. So here's the deal. The tip number 1 is to pick carefully. So a couple of pieces of advice around what to pick. You can pick, of course, anything that you want. And if you go onto the blog and listen to the interview, you will also see a whole bunch of different amazing examples of what students have done in the past. My recommendation is, if you're doing it for the first time, is to pick carefully. Pick something that you truly love to do, that you feel like you can accomplish every day, that is going to, bring you a lot of joy. That might be sort of a theme. If you love to draw flowers, it might be, okay, I'm going to pick a different type of flower and I'm going to just sketch one every single day, and that's going to be my project. Or, like me, what I'm doing this year is you might want to learn more about the iPad Pro, how to use the Apple Pencil, and in particular, an app called Procreate. So I've actually had this iPad Pro for 2 years now, and I've been super intimidated by it. And so I decided that for my project, I was going to basically use it every single day for 100 days in a row. And then I figured by the end, I will feel super comfortable, and I will have learned a bunch of new skills. So that also leads me to tip number 2, which is think about setting a time limit for yourself. We all lead really, really busy lives. And so what you want to think about as you're picking your project is make sure that it's something you actually think you can do maybe in about 20 minutes. That is kind of the time frame that I have used when I've participated in projects in the past, and that's the same time frame I'm sort of setting for myself now. Now, sometimes I take way longer to do my sketch on Procreate because I'm trying to use a new tool inside it. Some of the people who are participating in my group are doing much more complex pieces of art. It's totally fine. If you have the time to dedicate more than 20 minutes, that's fantastic. The only reason I kind of bring 20 minutes up as kind of a rule of thumb is because sometimes 20 minutes is going to feel really short. And then over the course of 100 days, sometimes 20 minutes is going to feel like an eternity. And so it's just another thing, another tip, something else for you to keep in mind as you are getting started. Then tip number 3 is it's really important to celebrate mini goals. So 100 days is a really long time. It's over 3 months. So what I like to do is I like to break it up into small chunks. I don't want to think about 100 days. That gets kind of overwhelming. I don't even want to think about how many months it is. I just want to sort of initially focus on the first 10 days. It might actually be great to just break the whole 100 days into 10-day increments. And so when you hit the first 10, you celebrate. When you hit the second 10, so you're at day 20, you celebrate. Adding other little mini goals, like day 25 is an awesome mini goal because you're a quarter of the way through. Then 30 is great. Then 33 is a third of the way through. So why not? You should celebrate that one too. Then 40 and 50. 50 is obviously huge because you're halfway through. And so you get the idea. You need to sort of have these small little mini goals along the way so that you can celebrate those as wins. Then tip number 4 is, I think it's really important to join a community. I don't think you want to do something like this by yourself. And it's incredibly fun to be in a community. You're welcome, as I said, to join mine. We're only on day 37. That means you still got 2/3 of the way through to do a project and learn a ton. And the communities are all amazingly supportive, right? Because we're in it together. We want to succeed. We want to support each other. We want to make sure that if we miss a day here or there, that we are supporting each other to jump back on. The most important thing when you're doing a project like this is I don't want you to get discouraged if you miss a day. You might get sick and you might miss a couple of days. You might even get sick and miss several days. But that is not really the point. The point is to make sure that you don't give up, because if you give up, then that's final. Whereas if you have skipped a couple days, but you rejoin and start over again, you still might by the end of the project have done 75 or more of this same type of artwork, which is going to be phenomenal when you go back to look at it. So tip number 5 kind of relates to tip number 4, and it is to make sure that you are kind to yourself. And what I mean by that, and the reason I'm sort of glancing down at my notes, is I really want to make sure that as you're picking your project, as you're thinking about the amount of time it's going to take for you to do it, as you join a community to make sure you have support and encouragement around you, it's very important that you don't beat yourself up if you miss a day, or a week, or 2 weeks. If you jump back in and keep going, you will still have an incredible accomplishment, and you'll be able to see how your work has evolved. You'll be able to see how your line work has improved. You'll be able to see how your attention to detail, depending on what it is that you picked, has just taken a huge leap forward, which is really the whole point of the exercise. And finally, you're doing it for yourself. So remember, you're doing this for yourself. You're not doing it for anyone else. There are gazillions of hashtags. Lots of people want to post their work all the time in social media. I don't even do that because I'm really doing it for myself, and it's more important for me to post my work actually inside the private Facebook group that I put together for the 100-day challenge. That's really where I can both see what other people are doing and celebrate them, and also get the encouragement that I need to keep going. And you do want to keep track of your work, so you want to put it somewhere. So you can absolutely do it through a hashtag on Instagram, or you can, if you join a community, you can just post every day when you're working on it, because you want to be able to have this body of work and go back and actually look at it at the end of the project, because you're going to be freaking amazed at what you've been able to do, and also just the development and the enhancement and I'm struggling for the right word about just the improvement that you'll see in the work itself. So just to recap really quickly, my top 5 tips for how to survive and enjoy a 100-day project are: tip number 1 is to pick carefully. Tip number 2 is to set a time limit. Tip number 3 is to celebrate mini goals along the way. Tip number 4 is to join a community so that you have the encouragement and support that you need. And then most importantly, tip number 5 is to be kind to yourself. Do not worry if you miss a day here or there, or even a week. Just jump back in. Remember, you're doing it for yourself, and that's what counts. So that is what I wanted to share with you today. And I would, of course, love for you to join us even though we're on day 37. That is not important. That's just a number. And if you haven't done one before, it's super fun to have one that's a little bit lower key maybe, because you don't have to feel like, okay, I'm not going to do 100 days. I'm going to do 75 or what have you. But I'll make sure that there is a link below that you can click to jump in and join us. And then hopefully this is helpful. If you decide not to do one now, you might want to join me next year or join one later in the year. They pop up all the time. I highly, highly recommend it. It's an incredible experience for you to be able to actually pick a project, do the same thing every day for 100 days, and see what develops. So I am Anne LaFollette, and I always like to close by saying it's never too late to create. So if you enjoy these broadcasts, please hit the subscribe button below, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.